This is a short demo of how to leverage Connection Manager to be able to launch multiple sessions at the same time with shared accounts within inside of Secret Server. In here, I've already signed in to Connection Manager. So if I come down here and I can show you, I've already got my integration set up here with Secret Server. It's very simple to do. You just have to have the URL of your Secret Server instance. If that's your cloud instance, you'll put your cloud tenant name in there. If it's a local one, you'll put your local URL in there. And then once you have that in there, you should see all of your various different connections located on the left here. So here I've got my personal folders. I've got an IT services folder here, for example. So these are all the different ones that I have available over here to me on the left. But really what we want to do is, if let's say you have, you want to use maybe one or maybe multiple different, accounts on multiple different machines that you want to connect to. So here's what we're going to do as an example. So I'm going to go to my local connections here, and you can either create connections here within Connection Manager. So I could say make a new RDP or SSH connection in here. You can also right-click this, and you can say you want to import, and maybe you already have a Connection Manager list of connections, or maybe you have something from other solutions such as Devolutions or Remote Desktop Connection Manager, or maybe they're just RDP files, or maybe if it's even a tool is not one of those, you can just have them in a CSV file, and you can bulk import the list of the machine names and domain names and all that in here as well. I'm not going to be doing that in this example, but I'm going to go ahead and create a couple new connections in here just to show you what this will look like. So I'm going to make a new one here. So I'm going to call this one, this is my domain controller. So I'm going to type in DC01, and same thing here, DC01. I'm going to put my domain name here. And then the important part here is the credentials. So I could say I want to use some local credentials. Maybe it's for a lab or something like that, something that's not a privileged account that I'm going to be using. I can also use it inherited from a folder. So let's say I put all of these accounts in one folder, and maybe I need a domain admin account or something to connect to all of them. Well, I could just map that to a whole folder, and we'll use that every time. Or I can map to individual secrets. So let's say I want to map this DCL1. I want to use, I'm going to go to my IT services folder, my domain admin accounts. I'm going to use my named vaulted Elias account in here. So this is like Elias's ADM account. So let's say I want to use that for connecting to this DCL1, and I'll click create, and that will create that connection. Now let's say I want to do a different one. So maybe you get in the morning, and the idea is, you want to have multiple machines that you want to connect to. So now I'm going to do another one here, my application server. So I'm going to put that in here. Okay, and again, I could either pick a mapped credential or I could pick a different one. I'm just going to use the same credential for this example, but just know that you can pick multiple different accounts that you want to use. So I'm going to go to my domain admin's account, and I'm going to use this account here. I could also leave this blank. I could just say none, and then it could say, hey, you want to connect? What credential do you want to use? And you could have it actually ask you which one you want to use. But I'm going to go ahead and use the same account here and show you what that will look like. So I'll click create. So now I have my multiple connections. Now, how do I launch them all at the same time? I'm going to click a little check mark up here, and notice it checks them all, and it gives me some various different menu options here at the top. So I have a little 4-button icon here. I've got a little pencil for editing. So I can, and if you hover over them, it will tell you what they are for. So for example, if I hover over this one, this is what we want to launch the connections. You can also bulk edit them too. So let's say you have all these set up, and later you're like, I don't want to use those credentials on all those. I want to change it. I want to use, from the folder. Maybe I go back later and I put those in a folder. I could go back and change it instead of using a specific credential mapped in here, or I could go pick a different credential. So it's really nice that you can change that later too in bulk. This right here just changes your view mode. I can copy these or cut them. And then I can also export these connections out of my Arc and delete them all. But in this case, I want to launch them all. So let's click launch and ask you, yes, do you want to open up both of these connections? It will tell you which ones connected, which ones didn't. And I used the wrong account in here. If you do have workflows or approvals and things like that, doing bulk ones are not going to work very great with this. So I would suggest using accounts in here that do not have those. Just to illustrate this, I am going to go disable that those workflows on here just so that you can see what this looks like in here. So I'm going to go into my security settings real quick, and we're going to go disable the workflow for that so that we can see what this looks like. So I'm going to turn that off. There we go. Now let's go back to Connection Manager, and let's go and try and launch it again. And say, yes, I want to launch, and it will tell you if it was able to launch them or not, and then you'll get your little prompts in there. I've got a couple of certificate issues. You can ignore those. You won't have those in your environment. And there we go. I was able to launch 2 sessions at the same time. Now, it doesn't have to be RDP sessions. You could have RDP and SSH sessions. So maybe you're doing some Windows and some Nix-based type administration. You could launch both of those in there. You could even launch multiple scripts at the same time. So if you've got like an SSH script or something as a launcher in here, you could have those launch across all those different servers too. So that is also an option. So that is how you can launch multiple sessions at the same time using either locally created RDP connection strings in here, or you can also bulk import your RDP connections from another tool that you're already currently using that you want to use inside of Connection Manager. I hope this was helpful. I hope you have a wonderful day, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much.